So Julian Assange is finally free. Being used as a political football by the establishment, he was kicked around for 15 years. And the establishment obviously saw him as a threat because, of course, not by virtue of leaking anything important, because, of course, he wasn't any, he didn't leak anything. It was, he gave anonymity to the people who were leaking the things. He merely provided an area, a publication site, WikiLeaks, in which they could release it, just like any news outlet. And however, he was seen as an example by the establishment as somebody who could not get away with it, because if their crimes could be seen by the public, who knows what would happen? Maybe people would demand there'd be greater oversight over the wars that are conducted with our taxpayer money. But let's put this into context. So Julian Assange, his site, he wasn't committing any crime. He's merely had a website whereby people could, like Chelsea Manning, who released content, reports, data, information regarding the war crimes during the Iraq War and Afghanistan War. So it wasn't Julian Assange that was committing these crimes. But the people who were committing these crimes, well, they did not like the light shown on their crimes. They want it to be done in the dark. And so they want to, as a result, they put people like Edward Snowdon, Chelsea Manning, in solitary confinement, and often in these cases. But they gave Julian Assange the biggest sentence in terms of just the sheer fact of just making his life hell. He had to seek asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy for a good number of years, 5 to 10 years. And he, has gone from one area to another area, Belmarsh prison, for 5 years in the UK. And of course, this case in Sweden regarding an essay case, which is not real essay, but, it was something that was weaponized as a way to, put him behind bars. But he was okay with actually going ahead with that case in Sweden. These two women came up and there was issue regarding consent. And he said, okay, I'm happy to go to that court case and defend myself, only if I'm not extradited to the US. Of course, the US wasn't happy with that, and Sweden weren't happy with that. So obviously he wouldn't agree to that. And he's been used as a political football. Of course, Donald Trump was considering pardoning him if Julian Assange gave some of the background details regarding some of those people involved with the leaking of, Hillary Clinton's emails for his political benefit. So they don't really care about him as a person, but he was used as a political football for one reason or another. And now he's free. Because, of course, Joe Biden, of course, now is using him as a political football. Of course, if too much light is shown on Julian Assange and his illegal confinement, unjust confinement, then naturally it would look bad for Joe Biden. Although Joe Biden, you can't get much worse than where he is right now, being in a nominally liberal centrist party, even slightly left, normally left wing of the two, and yet is complicit in a current genocide that is being paid for with US taxpayer money. So Joe Biden, he's just trying to limit his losses, although him and Trump, they didn't really care about him. The real question now is what's next. Julian Assange is free, but so are the war criminals, the Tony Blairs of the world, the Alistair Campbells, the George Bushes, the Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger, 6 foot under, but all these war criminals, they're free currently, or they're living lavishly in the form of, Tony Blair. So justice is a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And yes, it's good to see Julian Assange free, just as it's good to see Stephen Donziger free, following the fact that he took Chevron Texaco to court for $9 billion, and the US jurisdiction system, which is co-owned by corporate industry, really didn't want to see Chevron Texaco get any punishment for their real crimes of environmental poisoning, in which tens of thousands have been killed in Ecuador. So the people with power, they're still free. So really, the real question is, how do we, look at this as leftists? As leftists, what we have to do is we have to discuss more openly what is going on in the world. If you have a voice, if you have a phone and you feel passionately about the truth, please talk about it. Message me. I'm happy to, discuss how I go about it, but, take 5-10 minutes of your day and, on the weekends, try to get involved in activism. It's grassroots democracy is grassroots. It's not something astroturfed. It's not paid for by corporate donors. We're up against APAC. We're up against the fossil fuel industry. We're up against war criminals who are part and parcel of the military industrial complex. So we need to really join our forces. If communication isn't your style, obviously there are other ways to go about political activism. But I think this is incredibly important because we are reaching a tipping point, right? We have the US aiding and abetting a genocidal apartheid state of Israel, which has a completely different set of values to the common liberal in the West. Even liberals, it's different. And even those liberals who say they are happy with what Israel are doing, they're not real liberals. They're not true leftists. They're not true centrists. They're psychotic right-wingers who are using the aesthetics of liberalism and leftism just to make themselves feel good. A bit like a rainbow-colored drone. You might feel good about it. You might feel good that this drone is LGBTQ friendly and the drone pilot is bi and has a brother who's trans. But that's just superficial, salad dressing for a genocidal far right-wing state. We need to be, we need to have intersectionality in our approach. Feminism is important, LGBTQ is important, but we have to understand that's all sitting on a framework of human rights for all, freedom for all. And we cannot have freedom and human rights for all if people are being bombed relentlessly because they're on the wrong side of a border. They're the wrong ethnicity. They're in the way of a powerful nation state like the US or the Israel. And we need to be aware of this. Things are going to be very crazy as well in terms of, war, not just war, regarding Israel, but Iran and Israel, Russia and Ukraine, China and US. We are at a tipping point, which some people will say are the preceding kind of period before a world war. If not, we're already in one right now. So we're in a tipping point in terms of world war. We might be in a tipping point, we may be, of course. I cannot, I'm not psychic, but it seems like the case. We are at a tipping point in terms of climate change, whereby, you have these climate summits, which are headed by people who are oil billionaires, which is a disgusting joke. And you have the right wing, the rise of the right wing, which is facilitating both, the genocidal nation of Israel, even though Israel, of course, was built on the recognition that Jews were oppressed by right-wing nations. They're happy to see right-wing nations as long as they're not the ones at the end of the spear, as it were.
And then you have the rise of the right, which of course is happy with Israel. Some of them are happy with world wars, and all of them are happy with doing nothing about climate change. So unfortunately, it all boils down to power, and power is connected to money. And the only way we can cut through that is by doing something that money can't do, which is being authentic, discussing things, having, put on our actions into reality. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That'd be very much appreciated. Thank God, Edward Snowdon is free. Chelsea Manning is free. Julian Assange is free. And next, we want a Palestine that is free. Anyways, have a good day.